Seriously guys, you want me to review Barney's World? We could have talked about Molly of Denali, and why it's one of the best modern kids shows ever, but no, you want me to review Barney's World. This is how we're gonna end off 2024. Well, I guess it won the poll, so I guess this is what we're doing. The original Barney and Friends was a massive sensation. Seriously, if you grew up in the 90s or early 2000s, you couldn't escape this guy. But what's interesting is that despite the show's success, there was an overwhelming amount of hate for this character, particularly adults. There were memes, songs about killing him, heck, the hate was so big that the creator of the show received death threats for it. Jesus, was the show really that bad? Look, I don't care how bad it truly is, nobody deserves to get death threats for their work, that's just messed up. And looking back, I can safely say that the hate for the show was more than a bit too much, to put it very lightly. I mean, the show isn't the best thing in the world, and it's pretty sappy, but it's harmless enough. But despite this, the show was a huge success, so it makes sense that it got a reboot. So, is the reboot any good? Well, to be perfectly honest, this is one of the most average, most okayest shows I've ever seen. Like, seriously, when I watched the first episode, I just stared at the screen, not saying or feeling anything. It was one of the most boring things I've ever watched. For 11 straight minutes, I was just staring at the screen in pure boredom. The only time I came even close to feeling anything was when one of the characters said, "I don't want to help." So yeah, because of that, I was originally not gonna review this show. I was just gonna share my thoughts in a community post. But since it somehow won the poll, I watched more episodes, and did my thoughts change? Let's find out. Making a reboot of a classic show is a good opportunity to improve things that people didn't like about the original. For example, the Caillou reboot toned down Caillou's brattiness, and made him a generally more likable character. The Dora reboot shortened the episode length to 11 minutes, so it didn't have as much filler as the original. At first, I didn't like that decision, but after watching some classic Dora episodes, I realized that the show had lots and lots of filler. So, did this show make any improvements to the original? Actually, yes. The most notable thing is Barney's design. This is one of the very few occasions where I actually prefer the new design over the original. Because let's face it, Barney's original design was creepy. His eyes are small, yet his pupils are huge, causing him to look possessed, and his teeth are just really unsettling. How did Swiper the fox scare me as a kid, and yet Barney didn't? His new design is much more appealing to the eyes. Any other improvements? Well, I actually kind of like the new, "I Love You" song. It manages to be wholesome, but not overly sappy like in the original. I also like the lyric, "I love me too." It may be small, but it sends a great message to kids about loving yourself. Speaking of which, I really like some of the messages in this show. In one short, one character named Mel is upset because her friend Vivi and Baby Bop won't share the swings. But at the end, she realizes that they don't have to share just because she wants them to, and they'll share the swings once they're ready. And that's a lesson that doesn't get taught often if at all in kid shows. Any other show would be like, you need to share if your friends tell you to. I don't care if you're not ready, sharing is caring. If you don't share, you're a big meanie. So yeah, I can safely say that this show does make significant improvements from the original. But unfortunately, the show suffers from one problem. It's just one problem, but it's a big one. And that is, the characters. In my opinion, characters are the most important part of storytelling. They're the ones who drive the plots and conflict. That's why it's so important that shows have well-written characters, even in kid shows. It doesn't matter if a show has good animation, great voice acting, or even good messages. If your characters are bland, one-dimensional or even unlikable, it's difficult to get invested in the story. Even in an episodic show like this one, you still need to have good characters. None of the characters in this show are straight up unlikable, but they're just so bland. Mel likes sports. Vivi likes to dance. David is. Billy is. Baby Bop does have the potential to be a somewhat fun character, but my god, her voice is one of the most annoying things I've ever heard.
You found me! I'm Baby Bop!
Seriously, I had to Google these kids' names, they're so forgettable. Look, The situations they get into are relatable to kids, but their personalities are so bland that it makes it hard to care. And now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Or dinosaur in the room. Barney. They may have improved his design, but did they improve his character? Absolutely not. In the original, his only purpose was to play with the kids, and teach them lessons. That's it. For a reboot, you'd think they'd give this character some more, well, character. But no, it's the exact same thing here. He plays with the kids, and teaches them lessons. That's all he does. For a franchise named Barney, most, if not all the episodes aren't even about Barney. They mostly revolve around the kids playing and having to learn something, and then Barney gets summoned to help them. He is nothing but a plot device. And not to mention, he has no personality except for being happy all the time. Having a character who's constantly happy and optimistic can work, but here, he's had literally no other emotion except happiness. Imagine if Joy from Inside Out didn't learn her lesson about the importance of other emotions and continued to push them aside. That's probably what happened inside Barney's head. Look, in the original, Barney was a big puppet, so you can't physically make him show any other emotion unless you have another puppet design, which would probably be way too expensive. But even the way he acted, he was just always obnoxiously happy. Okay, I haven't watched the original show in years, so maybe there was one instance where he was sad or frustrated, but as far as I remember, Barney was just an obnoxiously cheerful plot device. But in the reboot, he's animated, so they definitely could give him more emotions, so did they? Well, he does frown every once in a while, but it's more because of his sympathy for others rather than his own feelings. While I don't support the death threats to the creator, I can see where all the memes came from. Overall, Barney's World is fine. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just fine. Are there better shows out there for kids to watch? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, this show is harmless, it's just plain forgettable. When I do my 2024 rankings in the beginning of January, expect this show to be in the very middle. It's the very definition of a bland kids show, and I'm probably gonna forget everything about it by the end of this year. Anyways, that's it for this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what you think of this show in the comments. And until next time, party on.